Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Auto Great Podcast. My name is Daniel Lugo, and today I am glad to have here Nancy Sana. And today's going to be a great episode that I think you all are going to like. So please take out your notebooks. And Nan, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. So thank you so much for the invitation. And yes, as you said, my name is Nancy Zana, and I'm a life coach, life and weight loss coach, practitioner in havening techniques, but mostly I'm a woman, a citizen of the world, and I live in Paris, France, and I just love working online. I love, speaking English. I think we're so lucky to live in this day and age where it's so easy to go, at least virtually, everywhere we want on Earth. And I really like that. I really like that possibility, that option.
It's so cool to be able to speak to someone on the other side of the world.
Yes,
I
I
had a
feel
chance to
lucky.
interview someone in Germany, but this is the second time that, I had someone from Europe. It was so
Yeah,
interesting that it's Paris, France.
yeah. Yes, welcome to Paris.
Well, Nan, so I just want to hit you up with the first question of the podcast. And this is a question that I give to everyone. So, what was that moment when you felt you were rock bottom or didn't see the light of day in your journey?
Such a great question. And I think that there was the beginning of rock bottom and there was the beginning of the end of rock bottom. And by that, I mean that when I was around 16, I don't remember exactly the age, but like so many people, so many girls around me, I started going on a diet because I was dissatisfied with my body. Of course, I had grown. It was different from the girl's body I used to have. And there was so much talk, like unfortunately today, around the body you should have, and what's wrong with your actual body, and so on, that it decided to go on a diet, like so many girls. And what I didn't know is that it started a spiral of restricting eating, which is what a diet is. You limit the kind of food that you eat, and you limit the quantity of the food that you eat. And when I stopped that diet for the first time, I immediately regained the weight and then some, like so many people. And then I thought, okay, well, I now know how to lose weight. So let's go back. Let's do again what worked the first time. Let's restrict what I'm eating. And what I didn't know is that it started this spiral of restricting what I was eating. And when I was done, when I couldn't take it anymore, and I was so frustrated, I was feeling so deprived when I was seeing other people eat what I was telling myself I couldn't have, that I would go to the other side to the other extreme, and I would overeat what I had forbidden myself to eat for some time. And so this loop, this back and forth between you can't have it to, oh, eat as much as you can because this may be the last time you allow yourself to have it. This lasted for 30 years. So between probably the age of 16 to the age of 46, I think I'm currently 51. Um, and um, and so that's why I think it's so important for me to speak to your audience, because perhaps they've started this cycle, and I so wish that they could stop it much earlier than I did. But that was the beginning of this spiral. And the second rock bottom that I would describe would be when I thought I had everything to be extremely happy. When I was a teenager, what I also did was a kind of bucket list. I know some people do, probably not all of them, but I know I did. I wanted to run a marathon. Check. I wanted to have a husband. Check. I wanted to live in Paris. Obviously. Check. I wanted to have a cat. Check. I wanted kids. And that was actually quite hard for us. It took us 10 years to have our two kids. So I thought, when it was so painful not to be able to get pregnant with the second child, I thought, oh, when I have my second child, and hopefully it's going to be a daughter, and it was, lucky me, then of course I'll be so happy, I'll stop overeating. And when I actually had my daughter, I didn't stop. Quite, I kept going. I kept having this behavior. So that's when I realized that, okay, things can't go on like this. There must be something that I'm missing, because I've got everything to be happy. Also, I thought, on paper, I mean, I'm so lucky, I'm so privileged. What's wrong with me that I keep stuffing myself so much in the evening? Um, I need to find out. Obviously, diets don't work. That can't solve this. That's only made it worse. I finally understood that. Running for marathons, training for marathons, running, exercising, over exercising probably, that doesn't help either. Beating myself up, being really hard on myself, that doesn't work either. So I have to find a different way. So that was definitely when I hit rock bottom. So it must have been about, I remember my daughter has just been born, so it must have been when she was 1, so she's now 14, so it must have been 13 years ago. Then I thought, okay, I need to find something else. And that's when I started also listening to podcasts, because having a baby is great. But I mean, I like intellectual stimulation with a baby. I didn't get as much as I wanted to, but it was also the beginning of podcasts. Um, and that's when well, my hands were busy most of the time with the baby. I couldn't turn the pages of a book. So I started listening. I started listening to audiobooks and to podcasts. And that's when I finally found a podcast which is still available, which is still amazing, but it's called the Life Coach School podcast. It's hosted by Brooke Castillo, and she was actually explaining why we do what we also so wish we wouldn't do. She was giving me the recipe, the key to my issue and whatever other issues people have. For me, it was overeating, but I know that other people struggle with scrolling their phones, with binging on Netflix, with biting their nails, yelling at their kids, so many things. And she was explaining in such a clear way why we were doing what we also didn't want to do. So that's why I love podcasts so much, because they gave me so much.
No, I understand completely. For me, also podcasts were a huge part of my journey. I like to learn. I'm curious by nature. So for like, I understand where you're going, and going through that, you know, what made you decide that I'm going to stop overeating? I'm gonna stop stress eating, and I'm going to live my life the way that it should.
Mm-mm. Yes, that's such a good question. And I think that that was always at the back of my mind, except that I was trying for the solutions that were not the real solutions, that were getting me deeper and more stuck into what I wanted to get out of, that cycle, that seesaw thing between overeating and restricting. So what made me decide was actually I could see how painful it was. I could see I was not happy, even though I wanted to. And, in psychology, they talk about two forms of motivation. There's the away from pain, and there's the towards pleasure. And I could see very well that I was in pain. I felt bloated when I ate. I didn't even taste what I ate. I ate so fast, as if it was behind my back. I ate in secret, so there was not even the pleasure of celebrating with food. No, it was just something that I was doing with a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. So that was not pleasant. That was not a pleasant experience. And then the aftermath, immediately after overeating, and maybe you've had this experience too, when you have a big meal for a particular reason. But typically in the US, I know they talk about Thanksgiving. So when you have that big meal, several courses, one after the other, um, you feel heavy afterwards. You feel bloated. You don't feel good immediately after. You don't feel good physically either the next day. It's like you're having a hangover, a food hangover. And then there's also the emotional and the mental and emotional weight that you put on your shoulder, like the regret, I shouldn't have done that, the guilt, I've done something wrong again, the shame, there must be something wrong with me because I keep doing this. What's wrong with me? All this nasty questioning that you have. So I knew that I wanted to avoid that. was hoping, I wasn't sure there was actually a solution. Now I know. So that's why it's so important for me to share my message. I want everyone who's struggling with overeating or any bad habit that they want to shed, that there is a solution. There must be a solution. So I want to give your listeners hope. But I wasn't sure actually. I knew how painful it was. I wasn't sure there was aware of it. But I was hopeful. I guess I've always been optimistic. I guess I take that from my parents. You know, hopeful, optimistic. We always think there must be a way, there must be a solution. So I'm really grateful for my parents for sharing this mindset with me. So I was hoping that there was this towards pleasure uh, way of being that I wanted. And as you said, to live my life better or to the fullest, or I wasn't sure what it would look like, but I had hope. And also at the back of my mind there was also this belief and this promise I made to myself: if one day I finally find the way out of this, I really want people to know, because it's so painful when you're in there, especially since there's so much shame that you don't share, and so you're isolated, you're isolating yourself basically. But also there's so much talk in our society that it's okay to celebrate with food, and it's kind of accepted to overeat, like as I mentioned for Thanksgiving. But at the same time, overeating on a regular basis, you know, it's seen as letting yourself go, having no control over your own impulses, and seen as bad. When in reality, it's something that if you don't know why you're doing that, well, yeah, well, it's not really your fault. It's not something you decided to to live. So there was also this desire to share, really. Once I found the solution, I want people to know. I want people to be able to get out of it faster and better, in a better way than I did. Because there's no reason to be in pain if we can avoid it. What's the point?
Yeah, of course. And what would those tips that you will give to someone who's overeating?
Mm,
Because I like to eat, for example, but I'm able to control myself on the food that I can eat, right?
yes.
Because I go to the gym, I have my goals at the gym, so that allows me to set my calorie count each day, right? So for me, it's not something that is a huge problem. Sometimes I want to eat more, and I do sometimes, but it's not that big of a deal that I'm over stressing. But I know there's a ton of people in the world that are going through this. And can you please share some of those tips that you went through and to help you with that journey?
Yes. First of all, I want to point out that I love the way you're seeing it. When you do overeat, it's not that big of a deal. That's what you tell yourself, and you believe it. And so, of course, you don't make it a big deal. And then you go back to your normal routine of eating according to your goals, and you go back to the gym. But I think that for a lot of people, and that may be the first thing that they can do, for a lot of people, they beat themselves up when they realize they've overeaten, because that was not the plan. Probably they also probably had a plan, you know, following their macros, um, eating a particular way, because maybe they also have, you know, fitness goals. Uh, but they don't tell themselves it's not a big deal when they notice they've overeaten compared to the plan. They probably tell themselves that no, they shouldn't. They always do this. There's something wrong with them, and so on. So that would be my first advice: would be to actually notice this self-talk, this negative self-talk. It's just like a radio that your brain is on, and the thing is that we don't have to be on that radio. We can change the radio. We can change the channel, just like we change the TV set with the remote control. It's just the press of a button. It may not be as easy to start with, but just noticing what you're thinking about it. And what you could be doing is what I call a thought download. It's just you take a piece of paper, or you use your phone and the dictaphone option on your phone, and you just tell yourself, you just put it out there for yourself, not for anyone else, but just for yourself. You put it on paper or on your phone, and you say what you're thinking, but silently, so that the idea is not to be mean to yourself and to keep listening to it or reading it and really, you know, beating yourself up even more. But the idea is just to notice what you're currently thinking. Um, and it shows you what you want to keep, because maybe in the middle of this, there's, okay, I can do better. Maybe there's a little sentence that's really supporting you, but also it makes you aware of what's not making you feel good. And you could read your little brain dump, your little paragraph that you've written, maybe with a timer for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to take, hours and hours, but just setting your alarm for 5 minutes, writing down everything that comes to your mind spontaneously, and then deciding what you want to keep, what you want to throw out. It's really like turning on the lights in a messy room that was in the dark before, and now you can see what's going on. You can see if you want to move the furniture, what you can change instead of tripping on things in the dark. You see what's going on. You also notice how it makes you feel. Each time you read a sentence, for instance, what's wrong with you is probably a sentence that makes you feel bad, whereas a sentence like, okay, maybe I can do better. Maybe I can change a little bit. Maybe that makes you feel a bit better. Maybe that makes you feel hopeful. So that may be a sentence you want to keep. So it's just this 5 minute brain dump is just for you to know what actually you're telling yourself, what that inner talk is like. So that could be a first step. I've got plenty of other things I could share. Let me know if you if you want me to.
No, of course. And I think that's a very important point because if we don't analyze what we're saying to ourselves, we're going to continue to repeat the same pattern. You're going to keep overeating. But if you write it down or put it on a wall, on your bed, right, you are more likely, I think, my opinion, to accomplish that goal of not overeating or going to the gym if you set your mind to it, right? Because if you have it in mind, for example, for me, it's just a constant theme of going to the gym, right? It's not missing, right? I try to do any exercise that I can. If I cannot go physically to the gym, I have my garage, I open it or go for a run, right? But we have to set our goals, and I think like putting on a recording or filming yourself, that can be an idea. Just film yourself saying, "Hey, I'm doing this because I want to accomplish this." And I think that's a great step. And if you can share any other that you have, then I will be grateful.
Yes, yes. And I love that idea of having it, in front of you on a regular basis, because you could have this list. So I mentioned the brain dump, it's like cleaning your brain. It's like you have this messy bag and you empty it, and then you put back in what you really want to think. And that may be what you put on your wall. Here's my goal. My goal is to stop overeating. Maybe my goal is to lose weight. Maybe my goal is to be more energetic. And here are the thoughts, the sentences that are really helping me do this or reach that goal. I love that. You could have, for each thought that makes you feel bad, you could decide, choose a thought that makes you feel a bit better. So that's a very good idea, because then you can have it, at the top of your mind on a regular basis. Something else that I like to think of, and that's what I tell my clients, is that you can check how you feel on a regular basis, because very often when we overeat in the evening, it's because we can't take it anymore. We've been avoiding the way we feel throughout the day because there were more pressing matters. Maybe there was work, maybe there was, I don't know, people to take care of, things like that. And so we've been avoiding the way we were feeling all day long. And at the end of the day, when we usually have more time, it's more spacious, then all those feelings that were here all day, they come back to us and they kind of attack us. And then that's when we want to avoid them even more, but maybe by scrolling our phone, maybe by um, watching TV throughout the night, maybe by eating, finishing the ice cream tub, or things like that. But if we take care of this throughout the day, if we check how we're feeling throughout the day, then it's as if, we're going to drop a little bit of of weight if we were a hot air balloon. If we drop a bit of weight throughout the day, then at the end of the day we won't feel that as bad, and we probably feel better. And you can do that, just simply notice how you feel on a regular basis. I don't know about you, but ever since COVID, I wash my hands so many times a day. And so that could be,
Me too.
you do. So that could be, a checkpoint. Just a moment where you do wash your hands, but at the same time, you take just a few minutes. How long does it take? 2 minutes tops to check how you're feeling. And you could have a little, emotion wheels or feelings wheel, whatever they're called. You could find those wheels with the vocabulary, the emotional vocabulary that we don't always have. And it can be super easy. It's just, okay, you have a look at this and you just pick the word that seems to be the closest to how you're feeling. And maybe it's frustrated, or maybe it's happy, or maybe it's, I'm having a look at mine right now, maybe it's isolated. And that's it. The idea is that you check how you feel on a regular basis. It helps you notice your emotions before they turn into cravings, or the urge to scroll, or whatever it is that you tend to do. It's really like checking the weather before you go outside. It's not going to change the weather, but it's going to help you take care of yourself with this weather, so that whether you need an umbrella, a big coat, or sunglasses. That's it. So you can even turn it into a game, a fun game with your partner, your friends, your kids if you have kids. It's just, okay, how am I feeling right now? And just you can share, or it can be a status on, I don't know, your Facebook or whatever um, social media you're on. Yeah.
No, that's incredible. I never done that myself. Checking of how I feel throughout the day. I just go by. I like to be a kind of machine that I just like to do as much as possible.
Yes.
But I know that we have to be checking our feelings, right? Because like you said, it's preparing for the weather. It's not that you're gonna change it, but you're preparing for it. And I think that's an incredible part of, and an incredible tip anyone can grab from the episode. So Nan, what would you like your legacy to be?
What a wonderful question. Yeah. So I'd love my legacy to be, I'd love to delete, erase, eliminate emotional eating from the planet, binge eating in particular, which is when you eat a lot in a short amount of time and you feel out of control and you feel shame afterwards, which is what I used to do in the evening. So I'd love, when I leave this planet, I'd love to know that my little action has had ripple effects, and now people know what to do. And maybe it's checking the weather, their emotional weather, and maybe it's doing brain dumps on a regular basis when they notice that they're feeling a bit agitated, so that they don't, finish the bag of cookies, or yeah, the jar of candies, but they see themselves doing this and they just take care of themselves before they do that. Because basically, when we have those kind of behaviors, it has nothing to do with food. That was really the most shocking truth that I noticed, that I realized, is I thought it was about my behavior was due to the food. The problem is that there's food everywhere, and I need to eat. So it felt as if I couldn't do anything about it. But when I realized it had nothing to do with food, but it was actually just the shape my emotional discomfort was taking.
The way you felt.
Yes, exactly. That's when I really understood, okay, then if it has nothing to do with food, I can do something about it. I don't need to avoid pizza. I don't need to ban popcorn from my life. I don't need to think chocolate is evil. No, I can take care of me, and I can think that there's no such thing as temptation. There's food, that's true, but I can feel tempted, or I can notice that I'm feeling tempted because of the way I'm thinking about the food. Like maybe it's a forbidden fruit. And whenever we think, oh, I can't have this, but it's so delicious, that's when we actually increase the temptation in ourselves. The food hasn't changed, but the way we see the food is what makes it irresistible. And so when I learned I had this power to make the food irresistible or not, because I could tell myself, wait, it looks like poison. I don't want this in my body, which is a bit extreme, but I don't always go there. But I can also tell myself, no, I don't want this really, because it's not going to be as good as I hope it is. And I know that there's going to be a consequence. I'm not going to be happy with myself if I eat this. I'm going to be disappointed and so on. So, yeah, I can think about that more than I think that, ooh, it's going to be good. And so that's the power that I realized I had. So that's also the legacy I'd love to share with as many people as possible. Just, yeah, you have the power over what you do with your body, with your lifetime. Even if there are plenty of things we can't change, there are plenty of things that, yes, are not within our control, but there are also so many things that we can choose on purpose, except that we don't always know.
No, that's incredible because that's part of my journey too. Yeah, and helping people realize the importance of being healthy. Like for me, it was a journey of medical procedures and realizing how we take health for granted and how we can just improve ourselves by being healthy. And I know it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, but in the end, it's worth it. That I think people will realize soon enough that they binge eating or eating bad stuff is just making them hurt themselves more. There is a someone said to me in one of the episodes that I filmed before, and it was, "Are you the owner of it, or is it owning you?"
Hmm.
So we have to be careful with that and let the things that are good for us be in our lives, and then things that aren't, let them be gone. And it is hard to do so, but in the end, it will be worth it. Just in like in any journey, the roller coaster first goes up before going down, before grabbing speed. So we have to be careful of what we put into our bodies, and we have to be careful of our mindset to it. So, Nan, is there anything else that you'd like to leave for the audience?
Yes. One thing I love about what you said, it takes a lot of work indeed to change your mindset, to change how you feed your body, but also how you feed your brain. But we also can see that it takes a lot of work to be in a body that, that's not the best you would like it to be. And by that, I'm thinking about the people who come to me and who want to stop overeating, and they're noticing the impact it has on their body. Their knees hurt, their hips hurt, they don't have as much energy as they'd like to, they can't dress the way they'd like to. And really, it takes a lot of work to change, but it's also a lot of work to be in a body or in a health that they don't like as much. So either way, it's going to be some work. The question is, which one do you want to do? Which one do you think is going to be better for you in the long run? Because, yeah, living a life, there's nothing easy about living a life. We all have our challenges, very different ones. Um, and so you get to choose what challenges you want to experience. So that's one thing I can leave your listeners with. And also something that I love to share is try and be curious rather than furious. It goes back to what I was saying about this mean inner talk, being nasty with yourself, beating yourself up constantly for what you did. But that actually, using the stick instead of the carrot, we think it's going to help us change our ways, but it's what actually keeps us stuck in the same behavior, in the same patterns, whatever it is. Because if you're beating yourself up, it's not pleasant. It doesn't feel good. So what do we do in that case? Well, we want to simply avoid that mean self-talk. And what do? We keep going back to this behavior that's actually a way to avoid or discomfort. So it may be overeating, it may be scrolling, it may be, whatever. So when we realize that being furious with ourselves is not actually helping us at all, it's actually keeping us stuck. What I really advise people to do is to be curious. And me, by that, I mean, try to be the detective in your story. I love watching detective movies. And so being the detective means pretend you're Sherlock Holmes or Miss Marple or whoever you like to watch as a detective show or read, and just look for clues. Try to look at the objective, the clues, the facts, really. What happened? Okay, I ate this, and that's it. Now I don't have to tell myself this furious story that I'm such a bad person and so on. No, I can just go back to the facts, really, the clues. Just, okay, I ate this. And really see them as clues. What does it tell me? What was I feeling that I thought I could only solve or feel better with chocolate, popcorn, whatever? Because that tells me something about me and how I was feeling. That's a clue. It's not a monster. It's not a problem. It's not a mistake. It's a messenger. So what can I learn from this? So that's, to put it in a nutshell, that's what I'd love, for your audience to remember. Be curious, not furious, if possible.
And also be curious of ways that you can accomplish it. Because, for example, I'm going to put myself in here. If I go to the gym, I go to the gym usually 6 days out of 7, right? And I always, if I find something interesting online that I can try, I'll try it out to see if it works or it doesn't, right? So we have to be curious, not in that sense of knowing, okay, I want to try this out that I saw here. Is it is it better for me or not? Be honest with yourself in that question. We always have to seek an improvement of curious of what is stopping us, of ways that we can help us get there. So we have to be curious in all the way around in life, in everything, from our jobs to our life. We have to be curious. So I love that message that you sent. So thank you, Nan, for being here. Thank you for being my guest. And before I end the podcast, can you please let the people know where they can find you?
Yes, well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. It's great. And yes, the best place for people to find me is on my website, which is called Milo, Milo, bingefix.com, Milo, Milo, bingefix.com. And this is where you can see the women I help, how I work, and what life looks like when you stop finishing the cookie bag or the ice cream tub. And if you like this conversation, I know I did, then you're going to love my free masterclass, which is called I Just Ate Dinner. Why do I want more? And again, you can sign up on my website, which is milobingefix.com/masterclass. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming in. I will leave the link down in the description below so that people can go to your website and go to the free workshop. I know that you can help a lot of people, and I'm sure that you will. Thank you so much for again for being here in the podcast. For those of you that are listening in, thank you for listening in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share with the people that you love, and thank you again for being here. God bless you all. Take care, guys.